the dueling approval ratings. This is sort of an albatross for Harris here. Her administration that she's a part of, Joe Biden's approval rating sits at just 41%. And then there's this twist. Donald Trump, retrospectively, do you now approve of how he did as president? In our poll, 48%, almost half, give him that approval rating.
That, of course, MSNBC's election guru thinks that the approval rating could be the biggest factor in the race. Let's bring in our own elections expert, pollster and political analyst Frank Luntz. Frank, great to have you on the show. A couple of days. We are down to the wire. The Des Moines Register has Harris up by +3. It shook the world today. Frank, I mean, this poll, 47-44, this one was like, what? I mean, nobody even talked about Iowa for months, and now all of a sudden it's the big headline. What do you think of that poll?
Well, let me remind viewers that back in 2020, with 7 or 8 days to go, there were a whole series of surveys, state surveys that were done, and some of them were done by reputable pollsters, which this Iowa poll was done, that had Joe Biden with a 12 or 15. One of them even had him with an 18-point lead in states that Biden barely won. So I hope that everyone is a little calm. I know it's hard to be that calm right before the election, an election that really matters. But I think there's way too much focus on the surveys. I don't believe the Iowa results. I will be shocked. If it is true, it means that every other survey is wrong across the country. It's an outlier, and we should be focused on what's happening overall across each of these states. And it really is a dead heat. I'm prepared to say that Trump does win Georgia. I'm prepared to give Wisconsin to Harris. These other states are just simply too close to call. And in the end, it is about turnout. It's about whether younger women vote, and they haven't in the past, whether union members and Latinos participate on the Republican side. I'm watching these very specific voter groups because they will make the decision. And right now, it really is a 50-50 race.
It's interesting to me, Frank, because I look at Nevada, and it's kind of fascinating because the early vote has done extraordinarily well. You look at Nevada, you look at Georgia, you look at some of these other states, and the early vote has done really, really well for Republicans. Do you see that as a trend, or what do you make of that?
It's a good point. I see it as a data point. And in the end, I'm watching these rallies to see, frankly, how many people show up, what the message is, whether they're communicating it. And both candidates seem to be hitting on all cylinders over the last 48 hours. For Donald Trump, if he wins in either Pennsylvania or Michigan, I don't see how he loses the election. But he's got to win one of those two states. For Harris, if she takes Georgia, which will be decided early in the evening, North Carolina early in the evening, those two states are two incredibly powerful bellwethers that we should know by 10 or 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock. So we won't know the winner until Wednesday or Thursday, but we will have a bellwether by late Wednesday evening. And I understand you're doing your show late election night. Your show may be more instrumental in telling us what happens and who's the winner of any show.
That's a good plug, Frank Luntz. Watch Fox News at night. We're going to be on until the wee hours of the morning, and it might be decided there. Frank Luntz predicts that post-election accusations, I'm going to put these up on the screen, Frank, misinformation, undercounting, and corruption. I've got about 45 seconds left for you. What do you mean?
I don't accept it, is actually what I mean. I think we need to give people the right to count these ballots, that every legal voter has the right to vote, that every vote should be counted and every count should be verified. It really is that simple. And I'm afraid that there'll be too much of this election rigging talk without giving the states the chance to vote. It is not helpful to undermine the security of the election. It is not helpful to create and sow doubts in people's minds that something is unfair. I trust these states, and many of them have Republican secretaries of state and Republican governors. I think we need to give the votes the chance to be counted, and don't believe what you read on the web, because a lot of it, frankly, is wrong.
It's a good point. Frank Luntz, great to have you on the show as always, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.